You know, so we have obviously Steve Young, who is our colleague here, but is the 49er legend. He told the San Francisco Chronicle, let's not dance around the truth. Trey's got a nearly impossible job. This job has always been a Super Bowl or bust job. Let's admit it. It's a high wire act for anybody. Trey's goal right now is not to hold the team back. He also added, and I thought this was a really interesting piece of this as we come out to talk about it, that the presence of Jimmy Garoppolo does not change the job, and that if that affected him, then he wouldn't make it anyway. Like, if that's a thing that gets in his head, that wouldn't make it anyway. RC had to run off to do first take, but let's dive into that for a minute here, because the conversation around Trey Lance got pretty noisy Sunday after what was a tough day, but there were a lot of reasons, a million excuses we could have made. It is going to be deafening if it doesn't look much better this week.
We'll see if they continue to lose games. Obviously, all bets could be off, but as of now, that's the plan.
He doesn't have the entirety of the Super Bowl roster that we always talk about there. He played without the tight end last week.
Right.
To my knowledge,
Probably
I think it's going to be again this week. And then Elijah Mitchell got hurt last week, and he's going to be out for a bunch of time. So what does he do, Nico? What does he need to do? What does Kyle Shanahan need to do to make sure that that kid doesn't have another really bad day?
They got to focus on themselves, and they got to do what they feel is best to put him in the proper position of having successful plays. So we know he's a mobile quarterback. We know he can run. He can get out of the pocket. He does all the great things on his feet. So with that, there's confidence that has to come along. And again, I think week one was kind of an outlier considering it was insane amount of rain and the field was soaked. So this week, hopefully it's not the same conditions. But again, you have to just be honest with yourself. As a football player, I can tell you when you have had poor performances, you look at yourself in the mirror and you know when you're not playing up to par and you're not playing to the level that you need to play at. So with that being said, the team also has to realize you have a starting quarterback who's very young right now. We said he's going to be our choice. He's our guy. If that does not work out, you can't just let the season completely get away from you. And you have a backup named Jimmy G, who is a very good quarterback with a high winning percentage, which some may argue, well, in the playoffs, he hasn't played great. Well, there's no reason they'd be in the playoffs if he didn't play well in the regular season. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but they got to make sure they put him in the right positions to be successful.
Brooke, how about it? Because, I mean, I saw a bunch of quotes. This one, Mike Martz really went in on the young player, which seemed a little bit over the top, but clearly a lot of questions about this. What sorts of things were you hearing from the people you talked to?
Well, the thing that I think about is how the Steelers are managing the Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky situation. They started Mitch Trubisky because they didn't want to have to put a young guy in there, and then if it doesn't go well, take him out and you rock his confidence. At this point, if at some point they take Trey Lance out, then what does that do to his long-term development? What does that do to his confidence long-term and feeling like this is his team? Yes, it's a Super Bowl or bust job, but he doesn't have Super Bowl support around him. And so I think that he needs that support from the coaching staff, even if Jimmy G is behind him, to have them ride it out with Trey Lance.
I think that's a really good point. I said this was the decision they couldn't unmake, and they chose to make it. They didn't have to. They could have played Garoppolo another year and seen what happens. They were ready, and they decided he was ready. Maybe he'll prove them right. They're an 8.5-point favorite this weekend. We'll see where it goes.